Okay, yeah, we saw those pictures you sent of the shoe pile by the door. Total chaos, I get it. So today, we're going to dive into one potential solution. The OYREL 5-tier shoe organizer rack. The big question. Is it the answer to your prayers for vertical storage, or just another wobbly headache? Our mission really is to figure out if it genuinely holds those 20 to 25 pairs they promise and actually brings order.
Exactly. We need to sift through the marketing hype and see what users are really finding. I mean, on the surface, it looks pretty decent, right? 5 tiers, capacity claims of up to 25 pairs. The dimensions are about 33 inches wide, 11 deep, and roughly 35 inches tall. And it's got that little side bag thingy, too, for like socks or maybe an umbrella.
Okay, so let's peek under the hood. The marketing talks a big game about it being an upgrade from flimsy plastic racks. What's the actual build like?
Well, that's where it gets interesting. They do use powder-coated iron pipes.
Yeah.
That smooth metal finish that resists rust.
Yeah.
And it uses PP connectors, which is basically a stronger type of plastic joint. Some sources specifically point out these thickened pipes, like 0.23 millimeters thick, suggesting they're aiming for better durability than average.
Right, thicker pipes sound good, more durable you'd think, but we know theory doesn't always match reality,
Yeah.
especially under stress. So is it actually sturdy?
Well, that's the first major snag we found.
Hmm.
Reports suggest that once you actually load it up, or heaven forbid, try to move it, that stability kind of goes out the window. The
Mm.
pipes might be thicker, sure, but those PP connectors seem to be the weak link. They can be a bit brittle, which probably explains why we heard from at least one person who literally had to glue some poles into the connectors just to keep the whole thing from falling apart.
Wait, glue. Seriously. Okay, so rock solid stability is definitely off the table then.
Yeah, pretty much. That's a big caveat.
And that brings us to maybe the biggest limitation, the one that kind of blows that 25 pair claim out of the water, the actual height between the shelves.
Oh, absolutely. That's the geometry problem, isn't it? The clearance is just, well, it's small. So if you're thinking high heels, taller boots, even some chunkier sneakers or high tops, it's just not going to work well. They probably won't fit upright. It really limits you mostly to flats, sandals, basic tennis shoes, low-profile stuff.
So that 25 pair number is really only if you have 25 pairs of, like, flip-flops.
Essentially, yeah. Or very flat shoes. It forces you to curate what you store there, regardless of the total number.
But hang on, considering the price, it's generally a budget option, right? So maybe that low clearance isn't the flaw, but just the compromise you make for getting that vertical storage in a tight space.
You could argue that it is a trade-off for the footprint, but the marketing could be clearer. They push the pair count without equally highlighting the type of shoe it actually accommodates easily. It's functional for some things, sure, but not universally for 25 pairs of any shoe.
Okay, speaking of things not being quite as advertised, what was that weird note about assembly? Something about the weather.
Oh, that. Yeah, that was probably the strangest detail we found. It's a bit of a red flag, honestly. Apparently, those PP connectors can become brittle and potentially crack if you assemble the rack in cold temperatures. And get this, the manufacturer specifically warns against doing what you might normally do, like soaking them in warm water to make them more pliable.
Wait, so they know they can be brittle in the cold, but they tell you not to warm them up. That seems contradictory.
It really does.
Yeah.
It points to a potential fundamental issue with a material quality or consistency that you don't usually see spelled out like that.
Okay, so let's pull all this together. If someone's listening, staring at their shoe mountain, what's the final verdict on this OYREL rack?
Look, it's a sensible budget choice. Let's be clear on that. It's functional, it does hold shoes, but it's definitely not, fortress grade. It is not a heavy-duty industrial rack by any stretch. If you've got a moderate collection, maybe 15, perhaps 20 pairs max, they're mostly flats, sneakers, sandals, and you need something vertical for a small apartment, entryway, or a closet, yeah, it offers decent value. It can work.
And this is a big but, right?
Huge but. If you're storing anything heavy, like work boots or lots of high heels, or if you need something you can shove around without worrying, this probably isn't the one for you. You should look elsewhere.
So the gap between the marketing promise 25 pairs and the functional reality, maybe 15 pairs of specific types of shoes, is pretty significant.
Absolutely. That height limitation is the key takeaway on capacity.
Which actually leads us right into our final thought for you listening. The real lesson here isn't just about counting pairs, like, oh, can it fit 20 or 25? It's about geometry. Before you buy any vertical shoe rack, especially a budget one like this, measure your shoes. Measure that tallest boot, that bulkiest sneaker. Find your worst case scenario shoe height. because if you don't shop with that dimension in mind first, you risk buying a rack where half the shelves end up being useless for the shoes you actually own, and that's just wasted money and space, isn't it?